we left off with getting this x minus 5/3 equals plus or minus 4/3. So let's split this up into two different equations. The first one would be x minus 5/3 equals positive 4/3. And then my other option is x minus 5/3 could equal negative 4/3. So if I add 5/3 to both sides here, I end up with x equals 9/3, which is just 3. So that's one possibility. Even though it's messy, 3 is something that works. And then same thing here, if I add 5/3 to both sides, I end up with x equals 1/3. So not as nice and pretty, but still a solution. Let's try C, since we don't really have room for B, and I'll have you try B on your own. C, we have the same problem again. We have a number in front of our x squared term. That cannot happen, so in order to fix that, we need to divide everything by negative 3. It's not good enough to just divide everything by 3, because then we'd have negative x squared, and we still can't complete the square with that. So I now get x squared minus 4x plus 5 equals 0. So, in order to solve this, back to what we've been doing, we need to get rid of this 5 so that we can make a perfect square. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Minus 4x. And now I have a blank here, which is awesome, because I can make that anything I want. And it equals negative 5 plus whatever we're going to add on. So in order to figure out what my square is, no, there's an x that goes here. I'm going to take negative 4 and cut it in half. So I get negative 2 squared. And then remember, take negative 2 times negative 2. You get positive 4. Whatever you add to one side, you have to add to the other. So this ends up equaling negative 1. You should love when a problem gets to this point, because we're almost done. If you try taking the square root and trying to solve for this, you end up taking the square root of a negative number, and this cannot happen. So we can stop right here, and we know there's no solutions. There is no number on planet Earth that you can plug in for x and get 0. So go back up to B, pause the video, try it on your own, and then we'll compare answers. Don't get freaked out by the fractions, and don't turn them into decimals. It'll make your life a little harder. For this one, your decimals will be exact, but like the last one we did would have been 0.3 repeating, and if you change it to a decimal, it won't work out. So when I divide everything by negative 5, I ended up with this fraction right here, which is kind of scary. But remember, if you cut it in half, you're really just multiplying by 1/2. So that's where I got this 19/10. And then you have to square it, which means square everything on top. So 19 squared is 361. Square the bottom, which is 100. And then I got to add that to the other side. So that's where this part came from. And then I added those two things together. 4/5 is really 80/100. So that's how I got 441. Take the square root of both sides. And this ends up being a nice pretty 21/10. And then you split it up into two options, the positive option and the negative option. The first one simplifies. You end up with 2/10, which is the same thing as 1/5. And then the other one you get negative, oh, it should be negative 4, sorry. You get negative 40 over 10, which simplifies to negative 4. Make sure you write down any questions you have. I will not be in class, but hopefully you guys can work together if you're struggling on something. And there's a bunch of worksheets to hopefully help you walk through. The reteaches are in there, which again kind of walks you through the steps, and the reading strategies, which also help you kind of put your thoughts together before you start doing actual problems. So good luck. Make sure you write down any questions you have for me, and I will answer them on Monday.